Welcome. Thank you so much for joining today. My name is Alex Benalbertini. I'm part of the Customer Success Network, and I'm very happy to host our digital success breakfast this morning with two career coaches and two amazing women, Sarah Brooks and Mikaela. Thanks a lot for joining. Before we start, just a few things. If you can put your camera on, I think everyone has. It's perfect for our panelists. It's great. If you have questions during the interview, feel free to go on Slido to join the app, the event CSN Breakfast, so that during the interview, if you have any question, post question there, people can vote as well. And at the end of the interview, we will allow a 15 minutes live Q&A, and we'll go through all the questions that you have. So a few words about our guests today. So first, Mikaela. Mikaela is a career coach and a customer success leader. She started at LinkedIn, helping organizations position their employer brand. Then she joined Uber as senior customer success manager and implementing their Uber for Business. Then she took a leadership role at Beamery when she managed an amazing team of customer success managers. She is really passionate about investing in people. And today our role is really aligned with our career goals and our values as she helps people get jobs as senior evangelist at Indeed. So thanks so much, Mikaela, for joining today. And then we have also Sarah Brooks. She's an experienced personal and executive coach who enjoys helping individuals to believe in their potential and define their ideal role. She's a highly experienced educator, trainer, and management consultant with dual roles as independent practitioner and academic. She specializes in behavioral change and upward communication in the workplace. Thanks so much, ladies, for joining us today. I will stop sharing my screen and we will kick off right now. So we'll start with you, Sarah. When we think, and we talked together about this, when we think about a career, most of the time it's made of different opportunities. Sometimes they can be unexpected ones, but it's one linked to another. But in your opinion, it's key to build a plan to move forward. So could you tell us a bit more about career planning?
Yeah, so career planning is a continually evolving process. So people talk about a career plan and sometimes like as if it's a fixed thing. So it's something that you've created and then when you've done it, you don't need to bother with it again. And actually, it's a process that continually evolves. It needs continually updating. It needs a lot of energy and effort and it needs looking after. So a career plan is kind of a snapshot in time that allows you to say, right, where am I now and where do I want to be in the future? The real importance of career planning is that it helps you identify the suitable role for you. And like you can have any type of career plan and you can go on the internet and you can look at example templates, you can create one for yourself. But essentially, I think there's kind of 4 areas that need to be in there. So it's about knowing yourself. So what are you good at? What do you like doing? What are your interests? What are your values and beliefs? What are your dreams and desires? It's also then about knowing the organisation that you think you want to work for. So what's their application process? What are their values and beliefs? What types of roles do they offer? So really get to grips with the organisation that you're looking for to make sure that it's a really good match for what you want to do and what they want doing. And then you've also got some other variables. So things like what can you expect when you work there? So what will the job be like day to day, minute by minute? What do you expect to be doing? Where will you be working? So will it be a lot of travel? Can you be home every day when you need to be? What salary can you earn and how much of that salary is made up of benefits package? But then really think about what does that package and that salary mean for me? So what will it mean for my lifestyle? How much sacrifice will I need to give in order to earn that much money? Is it worth it? So it's really getting you to think through things like that. And then have a think about your personal preferences. So what is it that you really like? How do you like to spend your time? And will that job allow you to do that? And then the other thing is about opinions of others. And I'm really keen on encouraging people to be very careful about what they want versus what other people want for them. And I think part of career planning, certainly when we're younger, we tend to take other people's advice about, oh, you're good at this, you'd be good at this job. Oh, you like doing that, have you thought about this job? But as we start to become more experienced, we have a much stronger sense of what we want. And other people may not necessarily see that on the outside. So we ask other people for advice, or they give us unsolicited advice. And we're trying to kind of work out, is that helpful or not? And so really being clear on what you want versus what other people want, and making that distinction will always help you be clear on what's the right career plan for you.
Good. And then you said that once we've been through all these questions and we know a bit more what we want, knowing yourself, the organization, you mentioned the fact that it's key to set goals. What is the purpose of goal setting, and could you tell us more about that?
Yes, so goal setting. So I had a baptism of fire with goal setting in 2004, and I didn't really believe in the value of goals, and then I ended up having a job where basically all I was doing was writing project plans with goals in, and I completely get it now. So the reason we set goals, there's three main reasons. People who set goals achieve them more often than if they don't. So they just get further in life. People who set stretch goals achieve more than people who set comfortable goals. And people who write them down achieve them more often than people who just think about them or talk about them. So there's real reasons for having goals and writing them down, because it means that you get what you want. When you're writing a goal, you should aim to do a number of things. So one of them is to seek clarity on something. So what is it that you want to know about yourself, about the organization? So seek clarity and feel challenged. So when you're writing it down, feel that this is something, actually, I don't know how I'm going to get that. The answer isn't here. It's not comfortable, but I know it's something that I need. So the next one then is about being committed. So make sure that you're committed to finding out the answer to that thing that's going to move you forward. There's absolutely no point setting goals for things that you're not interested in, because you just won't do them. You might need to gather feedback. Depends on what the goal is, but it's always helpful to gather feedback, whether that's asking other people to observe things that you're doing. So skills development, you might want somebody to tell you how they think you're getting on and give you some pointers. Or it might simply be you're benchmarking yourself against something else to see, actually, am I moving forward? And then embrace the complexity. And I think as humans, we try to make things as simple as possible. But if you really want to move forward, you need to embrace complexity. And complexity is not just challenge. So if I think of an example, so a challenge for me could be to learn a new skill at work. And I say, right, okay, I'm going to learn how to type with one hand, for example. The complexity might be then saying, I am going to learn how to type with one hand, but I also need to close my eyes while I'm doing it. I'm adding in a different thing. So complexity is about really challenging yourself to really go beyond what other people might be doing, so that you've got that real confidence in what you're doing. And then the final thing, obviously, set smart targets. So what I do is I set them in the present tense. So by the 31st of January, I will be a customer success manager working at this organization, earning this amount of money. So it's happened already by that date. That makes a difference to the way you think about it, because it sounds like it's happening anyway. Make it measurable. So you're either in a job or you're not. You're either earning that or you're not. It should be achievable. So the thing about career planning is you're constantly checking where you're at. If you feel that you're not going to meet that goal, well, that's fine. Revise the goal, put it out to somewhere where you think is more realistic, and then put a milestone in there that says, right, actually more realistic, by this day I'll have worked out what organization I want to work for. I haven't worked out how I'm going to get the job yet. Make it realistic. So something that you do think is something that's going to happen, and time bound. And the most important thing about career planning is to put times in there. And so often I see it where people say, you know, oh, March 2021, I'll just have a look, and all the actions have got March 2021 on, and it's just not going to work. So each action and thing needs to have its own realistic and time on.
Perfect. Thanks for all those great takeaways, Sarah. Moving to Mikaela about career planning. So something we discussed together, and I think which will resonate quite well with our audience of CS Geeks today, is the fact that you consider career planning as a little bit like a success plan. And this is the way you do for yourself. Could you tell us more about this approach?
Absolutely. So Sarah, not much that I can add. That was beautifully said. I really love that this is an ongoing project. Your career isn't a once and done, I've done the document. And why this resonates with me from a customer success background is when I was at LinkedIn, we would have customer success plans, as most good CSMs will do. And think about it, we know that they work because we hold our clients accountable. So when you flip it on its head, we're holding ourselves accountable. So I follow the success plan, that's the OGSM model. That's having my career objective. Then I have the strategies against that. Then I have the measures. And then I've got also the goals. So the OGSM, and that's how I've done my success plan for the past 5 years. And it's really helped me be accountable because you can set them, to Sarah's point, having a date. And we know we do these with our clients. We check in with them. So why not check in with yourself and use your success plan as your career plan? It does work. And I've got a template, if you would like to follow it, that I've used with a lot of my clients and I use in my own career. And I just think day job, I know that I can hold myself accountable and carve out that hour during a week to obviously check in, make sure that I'm tracking against my goals. I'm looking at the results, to Sarah's point, having that overarching goal. Yeah, it really is. It was just a simple switch that I made when moving into CS, and yeah, I'll continue using them.
And speaking of success plan, how, because we know that's difficult when you set these goals and you try and you define your success criteria to check in with your customer, how do you track your success criteria? How do you define them and how do you track them?
Yes, so I've got, again, one of my CS tools, I've got a career tracker. I think to Sarah's point, when you're in project management or change management or customer success in general, the key is to be organized. So again, you don't have to use an Excel spreadsheet or a Google sheet. It's just a mechanism of how I track myself. So I check in weekly on the goal for that week, make sure that it's tying into my overarching goal. So you can call that your North Star, whatever language works for you. And then I track that weekly in my tracker, just checking in that I've made one action. Doesn't have to be a big action. I appreciate we're all so busy, especially with COVID, working from home. You know, the working world now is very different. But at least I've done something that week, even checking it, making a plan for the following week, maybe when I've got a bit more time. So I use a tracker, an Excel spreadsheet, and that's how I track my overall success plan. And again, we can use tech, you know, there's so many project management tools, whatever works for you. I'm a little old school, so a good old spreadsheet does work for me.
Good. If we think about now, if we want to put this into practice and we want to think about a specific example, you said that you did a success plan and it worked for you. Do you want to share your experience and how did you create this success plan to achieve what you wanted and to set your role, to have your new role at Indeed? Could you tell us more about that?
Of course. So I've always been a firm believer of goals. So actually when I was 25, I had my goal that I wanted to, where I wanted to be by 13. So to Sarah's point, I worked backwards from that. So every career, every job that I've taken, it's been very targeted. So when I put my success plan at LinkedIn, I knew that I wanted to get some startup experience. I think working at a big organization in customer success, it's a great foundation, but you see the world, that's where it's going with SaaS. I definitely knew that the startup world was what I wanted to gain the experience in. And to Sarah's point, I was very targeted on what is the role, but what is the industry? And so I've always been in recruitment. I love helping people get jobs, which is why my side business is being a coach. And so I knew the types of firms that I wanted to work for. So I knew that I wanted to go work for another startup that was people focused. So that was Beamery, that was a CRM. And then my last startup was Runway, which is an employee experience app. So again, being quite targeted with, I'm racking up the industry experience, but I'm also racking up the roles. Startups, you have an opportunity to maybe go up to leadership, which was my experience, quicker than maybe I would have been able to have had that experience at a bigger firm. And then to your point, Sarah, around why I joined Indeed, I had a very set goal about what was the skill set that I was lacking, and that was public speaking. It's always been my fear, and even when you were CSM, having to do presentations, I was comfortable doing that, but I wasn't comfortable getting on a stage. And so that was a skill set that I wanted to gain. So joining Indeed in the evangelist role, I knew that would take me there. So again, all the roles that I've had, it's not been by chance. I've courted these companies, and we can talk about that later. You know, you professional stalking, liking all the posts on LinkedIn, going to every single free event that all those brands held, so that when the approach came, it wasn't out of the blue. Everyone's always said, oh, you're lucky you've ended up working there. I was like, no, it took me a solid 5 years to court these people, to have a plan, and then to end up there.
Good, so you did have a plan. So Sarah, something that Mikaela mentioned about, so if we think about, if we build this plan, if we go through this process and we realize that actually the next role requires a career change. It's a completely different industry or skill set, and I don't have really a background or an experience. How do you overcome this career change with recruiters or a hiring manager? The fact that you lack maybe expertise in this specific area, but you know that this is where you want to go. How do you tackle this challenge and articulate these with recruiters?
Yeah, it's a good question, isn't it? Because I know we tend to doubt ourselves, and particularly when we look at a job description and you just think, I don't know any of those things. And so you can really lack confidence. So I've changed career 3 times. So I'm not sure I'm a very good example of career planning, actually, because I could never quite work out exactly what I wanted to do, but I'm there now. I've got there, so that's okay. So yeah, so I think the easiest thing to do is to focus on transferable skills. So what, you know, and this may seem like a cliche, I know, but things like communication, problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, team working, you know, it may seem like a cliche, but actually all jobs require all of those skills. So the best method, I think, is the STAR method. You may be familiar with it or not. So really what it does is it tells us a short story in a paragraph or 2. What was the situation? S. T, what did you do? What was the task? A, what did you achieve? What did you do? R, what was the result? And then there's another R you can use as well, which is reflection. And I think organizations really like this if you can show that you are using your experiences to develop, is to reflect on, actually, if I did that again, this is how I'd do it differently. Mm-hmm. And what you're trying to do with transferable skills is to show that you understand really well the job that you're going for. So even if you've never done it before, what you're doing is you're demonstrating through your examples that actually that small amount of knowledge that you don't know is not really the issue. The fact is you have all of the skills that will enable you to do that job as well.
Okay, makes sense. Mikaela, do you have anything to add on this one, on how to articulate to hire manager that you're the right candidate for this role?
I think just 2 things to add there. This takes confidence, even if you don't have the confidence, even just saying, why not me? I'd said that in my final interview for the evangelist role when I had no public speaking experience. They hire ex-actors. And I said, why not me? I've got the passion, I've got the drive. You can hire someone with experience, or you can hire someone like me who is like, this is what I want. And so, look, I wasn't feeling confident, but I put my cards on the table. I think you have to kind of believe in yourself and take that risk and be a little bit, you know, dare I say, ballsy to get what you want. Even, you know, it's that analogy of the duck. I looked really calm underneath. I was paddling furiously fast. And then the other point is just, you've got your day job and you're going to gain skills there, but you know, you can gain transferable skills from courses. So if you look at LinkedIn, the amount of free courses that are there, the customer success network itself, this network has an amazing resources available to you. So rack up as much as you can that you know is missing from that job spec. So, you know, if you can demonstrate that you've done a course, you can demonstrate it in other areas of your life. You know, I run my side hustle, as I call it, my coaching business. And so I was able to draw on that experience of what I'm doing today. That's not my day job, to then help that employer go, okay, she may not have done it in one element, but she does have other elements that she can draw on. And you do blind confidence. And I know it's not easy. Afterwards, you can take that deep breath and go, oh, I don't think I can do this job. But when you're in that interview, you do need to really be quite confident and, you know, back yourself. And like I said, why not you? Why hire someone else? Why not hire me?
I like the be ballsy. Let's try that. Sometimes a career change requires time. So even if you know where you want to go, at that point right now, you need a job. So what can you do to maybe pivot a little bit and adapt to the situation so that in the end you get what you want? Mikaela, do you have a story to explain how you pivoted at the time?
I do. So I was offered my role at Indeed in February. So I think I just started to hear about COVID, was due to start in April. And unfortunately, with the current climate, they pushed my start date back. It was a hit, I'll be honest. My pride definitely took a hit because I'd announced it to the whole world that I was joining Indeed, and I didn't have my job on the table anymore. Reality, I need to earn money. We've got a mortgage to pay and a puppy. So I realized, took a step back, what can I do quickly? Because I had more time on my hands in that first week, if I'm honest, just letting the news sink in that I didn't have a job. I started to watch a bit more Instagram live, embarrassed to say, but I had time. And so I started to watch some fitness videos because that is like what my passion is. And I was trying to look after my mental health. So just trying to be active. And the CEO of one of these companies was doing live videos. And she was talking about how much she wants to grow and how she wants to scale her business. And I was like, I know those words. That's a CSM. She needs a CSM. She needs someone. She kept talking about freebies. She kept talking about like events, and then she wouldn't follow up. So I actually messaged her, the targeted message on Instagram, which is not a platform I've used to get a job, and said, hi, this is my background. You know, I've worked in SaaS. You're talking about a subscription model. I've done that before. I can make you money. Super simple, quite ballsy. Didn't expect her to come back. This is on Instagram, and she did. We had quite an informal chat because this is something totally different. And I then helped launch her fitness brand. In the 3 months that I didn't have a role with Indeed, I worked for her and just implemented project management, customer success, all those skill sets, even like having a success plan. She was like, wow, this is like revolutionary. And I was thinking, oh, it's just good customer success. It's good project management. And so I guess the story there is there are loads of mediums that you can reach out. It wasn't easy. Like I said, it took that confidence, but I tried something different. There are loads of people on Instagram that are posting, that are business owners that need our skill set. So if you are looking, even having a side hustle, doing something different, you know, it is a numbers game too. You've got to like reach out to a few people. She wasn't the only person I reached out to, but I reached out to industries that I really had a passion for, and then I knew my skill set could lend to them and that they could grow from that. So yeah, those were my 3 months launching a fitness brand, which was really fun.
Thanks for sharing, Mikaela. One of our attendees wondered, that's a question for you, Sarah. What is the point in a current job that is an indicator to take a jump to outside your current organization? What is that point?
Okay, so I think there's normally 2 points. I've changed jobs a lot, so I think there's 2 points. There's either a point of growth or a point of pain. So the point of growth could be that you're not enjoying the job anymore, that it's not really allowing you to develop in the way that you'd like to develop, that you've kind of outgrown the job. And I would say that is definitely a time to start thinking then about a different job, one that's going to allow you to do what you want to do. Sometimes we're in a situation, aren't we, where there's a point of pain. So it can be that we're not necessarily finding ourselves in situations that are suiting our personality, the types of things we want to do. There may be conflict. We could have a manager that doesn't necessarily take an interest in us, and actually we're really finding that quite difficult. So both of those, I would say, kind of extremes, aren't they? But they are both really good indicators that for your own well-being, I think it's important then to start thinking about what would be better. Because there's always something, there's never anything wrong with you, it's always the situation. So just find a better situation.
Good. Mikaela, we have many CSMs, CS geeks, CS leaders attending our breakfast this morning. So I had lots of questions about CS related. So what makes a great CSM, and what are the critical skills needed according to our CS leader here?
Great question. I guess firstly, I would say when you're looking at the industry, so I'm going to look at the company, because a CSM at a big firm versus a CSM at a startup, you're looking for very different things. So when you're looking at bigger firms for a more structured team, stakeholder management and internal stakeholder management is super important. That is still the same for a startup, but I would say probably less, in the sense that you have less stakeholders, because your team may be 4, it may be a 20-person company. So I think the first thing you need to look at as a CSM is be targeted on what type of size of firm are you going for, what are the roles and responsibilities, because they will differ. Again, in the bigger firms, it's stakeholder management, project management, being able to work within your role, but always still being a champion of being able to pick something else up. And that's super relevant when you look at the startups. In a startup, you will be wearing multiple hats. Yes, you'll be doing customer success management. You may be doing a bit of pre-sales, post-sales, HR, recruitment, you name it. I think if you want to go down the startup route, you want to be a great CSM. It's being able to be really flexible, adaptable, being calm under pressure. Even if you're not calm, with that duck analogy, you need to try compose yourself, because startups, you're thrown in all different directions, and it's quite stressful when it comes to funding. And again, asking leadership, what are you missing? And that's actually a question that I've asked throughout my career in interviews, and when I've stepped up to be a leader, is what is the team missing? What were you lacking from the previous person? Again, it's a ballsy question. I think you're probably getting the theme of how I do just my life in general. I ask those tough questions, sometimes awkward questions of, what can the team be doing better? What am I missing? I think if you ask those questions, you're going to become a great CSM, because you're going to see the gaps, and then you're going to be making an impact much faster than not asking those questions. So I think that applies both to big companies and small companies. How can I make your life easier? Also is a great question to ask, because the whole point is, once you have those answers, like I said, it's making an impact. It's showing up, doing that, and then doing the day job well. That's what a great CSM does. It's you're doing the day job, but you're doing more than that.
Mm-hmm. True. Sarah, a question that I thought about as well is, what would be your advice when you're stepping up from an individual contributor role to a leadership role? Those are because 2 different kind of roles.
Yeah, so actually, and they're quite different, aren't they? So to be a leader requires different sets of skills than to be an individual contributor or an employee. So I think it's about understanding what those different roles are, and then being able to work out how you get those skills. So in particular, there's a number of skills. So it's things like being able to show that you understand what the organisation is like as a whole, so not just your own team or department, and actually also how that organisation fits into society. So what's its wider role and its function? So you're thinking much bigger rather than just down on your individual role or your team. It's also then about networking. So you're expected as a leader to know people who are in each of those different organisations or different parts of society that you're influencing. So you're expected to know them and be out there influencing those types of people. It's about having a vision. So you need to be able to lead your team forward. So you need to be very clear on what the future looks like. And when you're an employee, actually often what you're told is, this is what you need to do, this is what we're doing. So it's actually it feels very different to be able to have your own vision and to be able to sell it to other people and, take their input and say, actually, we need a vision that works for all of us. So they're, very different skills.
Good. Mikaela, do you want to add anything on this one, on advices on how you are an individual contributor, you becoming a leader? What are the skills?
Yeah, I think Sarah hit the nail on the head around that gathering information. So when I stepped up from Beamery, I was hired as a senior CSM. There was an opportunity for me to become the CS leader. So I did make that step up. It was pretty quick. I guess what I learned very early on is ask questions. So ask questions of your team. If you're making that step up, the first thing I did was go to the people that I hired and to my colleagues and said, what do they need from this leadership role? like I said, what is lacking, what do they want, what are their expectations? And then I did those same questions to leadership. So to my fellow leaders, I asked them, what are they looking for from the role? What have they seen that's been missing? You know, what would be the biggest impact within the first 30 days that I could make or change? And then again, having a mentor. So to Sarah's point about networking, have other leaders that you can lean on. You know, we all will have at some point in our career that imposter syndrome. So networking, mentoring, and then just really knowing your numbers. That's something. You don't have to be great with numbers. Like I never forecast before. Google taught me how to forecast. Know your numbers. So know the KPIs of yourself, and probably as an individual contributor, you would know your KPIs, but understand how is that measured, what numbers matter to leadership. And again, I learned that you've got to communicate really well down. So if you're stepping up from a team member and you have colleagues and you're stepping up, how do you communicate down to your colleagues in terms of what's going on? You know, over communication is probably key there, but know your numbers. That was probably the biggest thing that I learned. I understood my KPIs, but I didn't understand, to Sarah's point, how that impacted the business, why the CEO really cared about, you know, ARR. What was the important number to him? What's the important number to an investor? What do they care about? So know your stuff.
It might be worth also just adding in there about the value of coaching and mentoring. When you're transitioning from an employee to a manager or a leader, those skills are very difficult to acquire by yourself. And so that coaching and mentoring can really come into its own here. So mentoring is about really working with somebody who's already done that transition. Mm-hmm. And they can really help to tell you how to navigate that. And, you know, this is really hard trying to do it by yourself. So I can't emphasize enough, find somebody who's already done it and ask if they'll mentor you, because they can just give you advice about what to do and how they did things. The difference with coaching is really helping you to be authentic in your leadership journey. So, you know, the whole thing I mentioned about opinions of others, it's okay people telling you what to do, but you need to work out what your leadership style is and how you want to do things. And so the coaching can really help you keep that authenticity and make sure that you're the leader and this is what you stand for. You're not simply doing what somebody else has told you. And, you know, about communication and everything, just what Mikaela was saying, it's so much easier to communicate and lead and influence and sell if you come across as yourself and people can see that you're you and not somebody else, or just acting for the organization blindly.
Thanks for adding this and for explaining the difference between mentoring and coaching, because sometimes it's a bit blurry. Mm-hmm. Mikaela, I can see that you're not afraid of asking questions during the interview. So I'm thinking about this uncomfortable question about salary and benefits during the interview process. And the question is, when is the best moment to ask this question? And can we ask it? And of course, what do you think?
It's a great question. I think the fact that you've said it's awkward, it's a shame that this is an awkward conversation. It shouldn't be. And I guess the only way you can make it not awkward for yourself is getting comfortable with it. And so what I mean by that is being comfortable asking yourself, you know, sharing it maybe with your partner or a family friend, that you can just get used to asking that question, because it shouldn't be an awkward thing in an interview. At the end of the day, you don't want to waste your time going through 3, 4, 5 stages to get to that final round, and the offer is way below your expectations. So to your point, do you need to bring it up? I think it is important. If it's not brought up, you should bring it up, because you don't want to waste your time. Your time is just as much as a commodity as that client. And I think, again, having that blind confidence that, yes, you're interviewing for that role, but they're also interviewing you. So you do need to know your worth. So it's sad that it's awkward. It shouldn't be awkward. And the only way not to make it awkward is to get comfortable talking about it, comfortable knowing your numbers. So do your research, look online. You know, Glassdoor's got some good salary indications. The CS network is such an open, honest place. Look, salary is an awkward thing to talk about. Again, it's that word, but the more we talk about it, the more you share, the more knowledge you have. It shouldn't be something that you hide from in the interview process, because what's the point? If you love that role, if you're willing to take a salary cut, I've taken a salary cut before in startups. Startups sometimes can't afford those big salaries that you're used to in bigger firms. I was comfortable to take that cut, but then I tied something into that contract to say after my probation or after X, Y, and Z milestone, this is where my expectation is of where I would like to be. And so I was very comfortable saying it just like that because I'd practiced that at least 6 or 7 times in front of the mirror to my husband. Because like I said, you've got to get familiar with it so that it's not an awkward chat. But I think in short, it is important to bring up because you don't want to waste your time or the organization's time.
Yeah, good point. Sarah, I know that you've got a slightly different perspective on that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not different in that I agree. It absolutely needs talking about. But I think it's about where you hold the most power, actually. And in my experience, the most power for negotiating is when they've offered you the role. So before you've accepted, but they've offered it to you, then is the time, because you already know that they want you. They've already made that decision. So that discussion about salary puts you in a far more powerful position.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. Before we move to the questions and the live Q&A, we have a few minutes, and I wanted to talk about appreciative inquiry, and because it's a group exercise, but I think Sarah would like to introduce us to this exercise so that we have a little taste of what it is. It's about reflecting on our previous experiences so as to know yourself somehow better and be able to do some career planning. So Sarah, do you want to talk us about appreciative inquiry?
Yeah, so it's a form of action research, and essentially what it does is it builds on strengths. So it's a really positive, focused exercise helping you to identify how things could be even better than you are at the moment. And what would happen is there are five stages that you need to go through, and what I would do is ask a question, and then normally people would work in groups together and just feed off each other, because you get plenty of ideas off other people. And essentially what you're doing is you are asking, what's the best job you've ever had? So you give people time to think about, wow, yeah, I remember that job 20 years ago was the best job I've ever had, and then you list the reasons. And then the next stage is to say, right, what could be even better? And so what you're doing there is you're starting from this already brilliant platform, from the best job you've ever had, and saying, well, yeah, actually, it wasn't perfect. If I could have added in this, this, and this, that would have been even better. And then what you do is you draw that job of your dreams. And so some people, when I've done this, really kind of feel very resistant to the act of drawing. But I've never found anybody who's done it who has really disliked it after they've done it. They've always been quite surprised by what's come out on the piece of paper. So it's really about getting it out of your head and getting it into some kind of format that allows you to say, actually, you know what? Yeah, that does look really good. And if it's not pictures, it could be words, whatever it is. You draw this job of your dreams. And then what you do is you ask, what do you need to do to get it? And again, this is a really positive, focused conversation, because you've already identified this amazing job that you already know you're going to love, because you know it. They're things you've done before. You've put them all together, and you now say, well, what do you need to do to get it? And then the last stage then is identify career goals. So don't just talk about it, get them written down. Get other people to help you. Make sure that they're smart targets, that they're complex, that they're challenging, that they're achievable and realistic. And at the end of the session, you actually have identified this dream job, and you have some next steps that will allow you to go and get it.
Good. Thanks, Sarah. Now we've got work to do. We could move to Slido. We have only 2 questions on Slido. So I thought, because we're a small group, I can see everyone on my screen. I think it's the same for you guys. I thought it could be better to have like an informal conversation. Anyone wants to ask a question, can raise their hand, and so that it will allow, more something conversational. So I know there are two questions. The people wanted to ask the question. If they wanted to ask it out loud with us, feel free to. If anyone has any question, feel free to ask Sarah and Mikaela about career change, about how to ask a ballsy question. It's fine. Anyone?
Sarah, hi, and Mikaela, hi.
Hi, Rob.
Rob here. Hello, great session today. Very insightful and a good reminder that we need to just some practical tips, which I really like. So I asked one of the questions around just, I suppose, the current climate, and I think it's probably easy to be put off by everything at the moment, right? But I think that what guidance would you give in terms of just persevering your career goals? Is there tactics to kind of hold or just not to be put off by BBC News app, basically?
Well, yeah, I don't look at the BBC News app anymore. So I think, yes, right. So you must persevere, because the world will become more like we're used to again. It will be. It won't be like this forever. And so things will start to move. The thing I'm noticing, I think, is that new opportunities are becoming available. The world at the moment is a really great place for entrepreneurs, because there are so many opportunities that just didn't exist before, and the world needs new ideas and it needs people to implement them. So definitely persevere. What I would say is, on that career plan, so those things I went through before about know yourself, know the organization, know what you prefer, know what to expect, you can really start to drill down into the real details of each of those things, because there's a lot of work you can do in each of those areas. And then the idea is that when the job comes up, you're just going to go, that's mine. And you'll know that because you've spent so much time creating it and working out exactly what it looks like. You'll just know it's yours. So to do that work, but keep looking, keep scanning, keep open for those opportunities. And, I promise you, it will happen quicker than you could ever have imagined, because when you're looking for it, you'll see it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it does. It's good. It's a good motivation to, as I said, not to put off and to keep researching. I think, Mikaela, you said that, right? I think it's all about doing your due diligence, and I think that's something that a lot of our teams and we can do without making that final decision. So it's good advice.
I think. Oh, sorry, Alistair.
No, go ahead, Mikaela, go ahead.
We do have more time. Now, look, I know sometimes it feels like we're just trying to survive, and I get that. Like I said, I had 2 weeks before I, got on the Instagram where I was super down. Like, it was the reality check, seeing all the numbers. I actually took off the BBC app because I just couldn't handle the notifications anymore. So, you've got to look after your mental health with what we're going through now. But when I did pick myself up, we do have more time. And so that commute, and, I'm not saying that, you've got to learn a new skill and, you've got to come up with like a 6-pack after COVID, like all that stuff. I'm like, that's not a reality. The reality is right now, I'm just surviving and trying to pay my mortgage. But I think use this time, because we're not going to get this time back the way that we've got it now. And be a little bit selfish. There's kind of two camps that I see right now. There's people that are happy in their job because their company has done well by them during COVID. And then there's the other camp where maybe they're not that happy with how their company's reacted. And so I see either very active candidates wanting to make a move, or I see people being a bit more hesitant about moving, which is fine. But to Sarah's point, things will go back to some form of normal. So use this time, Rob, to your point, research, go on LinkedIn, look at your alumni that are in the companies that you want to work for. People have more time to do coffees. I think you probably need to lean into being vulnerable. Like, I'm being quite vulnerable on this call and sharing with you that I was down. Would I have done that 6 months ago? No way. Would have had my very corporate, polished personality. But I've learned, because this is virtual, I have to be honest with people and build that relationship. And so I've had way more mentor chats than I ever normally would have, because someone else is also maybe having a bad day, wants to have a coffee break. Maybe their partner, a friend, has lost their job and they want to just talk to you. So I think use this time, like, make some time for yourself, be selfish. If you are in a good job and your company's looking after you, take a day for you, be a little selfish. There's nothing wrong with that. At the end of the day, you are in charge of your career. Someone's not going to hand this to you on a plate.
It's good advice.
And
Yeah,
Mikaela,
oh, sorry. Can I just share something else, Alex? Is that all right?
of course.
So yeah, I've also been in a difficult situation where I was out of work for 9 months, and I got down and I stopped dreaming about what I wanted, and I went for the job that I got offered, and I negotiated a rubbish salary, and I hated that job, and I was angry. I look back now and I'm angry because it was my lack of confidence that just stopped me from planning, stopped me from dreaming, and I wasn't ready. I just wasn't ready for when that job opportunity came, and I should have gone in there with my confident head on and said, no, if you want me, you need to pay for me and you need to give me what I want. And I was like, oh yeah, thanks very much for giving me the job. Oh yeah, that's great. I'm so grateful, right? And you know, it doesn't work. So be ready, Rob. Just be ready, because when it comes, you'll know it, and you want to go for it. You don't want to be thinking, oh well, all right then, go on then, I'll give it a go, because it won't work for you, and you'll look back and you'll think, what a wasted opportunity. And I don't want that for anybody else. That was a horrible period of my life. So don't do that. Don't do what I did.
And just to add to that, sorry, now we're going back and forth.
Please do.
To the point, if you are in, whether it's a corporate job or a startup, an entrepreneur, if you've got a salary, that's like, you know, it's a bonus right now to have a steady job when we look at all the numbers of unemployment. But use this time. So, you know, like I said, I've been courting the companies that I've worked for years before. I liked all the LinkedIn comments. I signed up to every free event. I made myself known. So you can use this time and you can say, if I want to work for this company by next year, do the groundwork now. Start, you know, following them on social media, start liking, start interacting, even on a LinkedIn post, just saying, you know, great article at company. Like I was, you know, showering Indeed with praise way before they even then approached me to join them. So I think you can use this time now on your target list, if you have a target list of companies, and start interacting with them and just sign up to the free events. I know Zoom fatigue is real, but again, you've got to be selfish. You need to go to these events and make yourself known, so that Sarah's right. When that time comes, you're ready. You know, you're not an unknown entity. You're not just applying to a job. Right now, it's a tough market. We know how many hundreds of people, like when I was off for that startup, I was actually doing recruiting, and it was like soul destroying seeing really talented people out of roles. So it is competitive. Your competitive advantage is preparation. And like I said, all the stuff that you're doing before that job, I think just blindly applying, it may work, but my advice is absolutely prepare, use this time and just network as much as you can.
Thank you.
And about networking, Mikaela, hopefully we'll be able to meet people more often, to go to events and also network in your own organization. But right now it's difficult because everything is online. Do you have any advice on how to leverage your network in COVID time?
I think like the first thing that comes to mind with that question is be open and honest. Like we all know what it's like right now. I can't see anyone's background being in an office. It looks like we're all still working from home. The positives of that in your organization, you probably will be able to put more time in people's calendar. So I found that I onboarded at Indeed completely virtually, and I was able to meet more senior leaders probably that I would have ever been able to meet in person, because they wouldn't have had time. Whereas now they have that little 10 minutes in between meetings where they're not walking. You know, people will block their calendars. So I think, again, that confidence, that ballsiness, I didn't have fear by putting time in their calendar. I popped in time, you know, just a quick coffee chat, always give an agenda as to, you know, why you're asking for their time and what you want to get out of it. I think that's just best practice in general when asking for a meeting. But if you've got people's calendars open, use it. If you have to go through like a secretary or someone else that's, you know, a guardian of their calendar, still go push for that time. And then if you're not in a corporate role, just networking in general, we all going through this together. So, you know, just popping at the beginning of that message, say maybe you are struggling in your job or you're struggling to find a job. Does that person have a spare 10 minutes? It can be a walk and talk. We all need to get our steps in, because like I definitely, pre-moving to my new house, I was averaging 30 steps a day. Not proud of that in my 1-bed flat. You know, you could say to someone, can we just grab a walk and talk? Even if you're going to the shops, you know, 10 minutes, I just would love to chat. People want to talk right now. It's quite isolating, COVID. So I think just calling that out, being open and honest. And like I said, if you're in a company, we can see people's diaries. Take this time now to book that time in, because when we go back to traveling and meetings, you're probably not going to get this time again. So actually, it's quite a positive.
I think also, the difficulty here is we're giving general advice, aren't we, right? And everybody's situation is different. So I feel, like I'm itching to speak to you all individually and say, no, tell me about your individual situation. And then we can, give you more specific advice. But the other thing about networking is, and Mikaela is absolutely right, people just need to talk because everybody needs to feel connected. I've grown my LinkedIn network 150 people since we went into lockdown. That would have taken me years previously, because I've just found that people are happy to talk. And the one thing that people will never do, I've realised now, this is my way in, is to say, oh, I'd really like your advice about something which I can see you do really well. Would it be possible for me to have a quick chat with you? And nobody says no. And then what happens is they know your name, you know them. They obviously ask you, what are you doing? You tell them what you're doing. They are inevitably interested, most people, because they're interested. That's why they wanted to speak to you. And before you know it, you've just got your name out there. You've found out what roles are available. You've found out what's happening. And so many of those people have actually come back to me in different ways through LinkedIn or in networking groups that I go to. And some of those relationships have really taken off. And it's been absolutely worth the investment. And exactly like Mikaela said, what else was I doing? Sat in my spare room all day. It's really lonely. So it's really, it's been a brilliant part of lockdown, getting to meet all these new people and find out what else is going on out there.
People want to talk. Cool. Any other questions, or should I wrap up? So I would like to share this. First, thank you so much, Sarah and Mikaela. It was amazing. Lots of great insights, great takeaways for me personally, for everyone, I hope, for during this breakfast. So next is I will send an email to you guys with the key takeaways from this session and maybe the success plan for Mikaela, so that you can start your exercise career planning. And what's next? Next week on Wednesday, we have a masterclass with Sue Walsh on how to build a CV to stand out. She's going to go through 3 CVs at least and see and show tell her feedback around this. And do not forget the customer conference from the 17th to the 19th of November. It's an amazing virtual event around the future of customer success. So do register. It's going to be great. Amazing panelists and speakers. So thank you, everyone. Thanks again, Sarah and Mikaela. Take care, everyone. I wish you a very nice week. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Mikaela.
Bye.
Session. Cheers.
Good luck, everyone.